We'll go ahead and call this Ripon City Council meeting of January 14th to order. Hey, Tom's here. Hey, someone's moving my screen around here, but we are about to open closed session. We're looking for public comment. Anybody from the public like to? What? The closed session. Yeah, well, whatever. All right, when you're in the seat, you can do it how you like. But do we get any comment online? Okay, so seeing none, we'll go ahead and close it into closed session. We'll go to the conference room. Yeah, yeah, get up and walk.
Do we need to bring our paper? Would you refill my candy?
All right, we are all ready. We'll come back out of open session or closed session into open session. Mr. Terpstra, could you give us a readout of closed session, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The city council did meet in closed session at 5:30 p.m. and adjourned just a few minutes ago. Staff presented certain ordinances and invoices for payment, and that was approved, but no further reportable action was taken.
All right, thank you. Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then please remain standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pray with me. Almighty God and Father, as we gather for this meeting, our minds and hearts go out to our fellow California citizens in the LA area who are suffering from the fires or in danger of them. We ask you to comfort those who have lost loved ones and friends. We ask you to provide for those who have lost homes and businesses. We ask you to calm the winds and keep safe homes and businesses in danger. And we ask you to protect the firefighters who are battling the flames. The tragedy in LA makes us recognize our weaknesses. We are finite. We can build what can be lost. The plans we make can fall apart. Troubles can come. That is why we bow before you this evening. We know that you are infinite in power, wisdom, and goodness. We ask you to be gracious to us and protect our city and citizens and our first responders. And we ask you to lead and provide wide decisions this evening and during all the meetings of this year. By your grace, may businesses thrive. May children learn safely. May parks and athletics be enjoyed. May families, churches, and other organizations be blessed. We pray in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen.
All right, Lisa, can you do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Leo Zuber,
Here.
Mike Restucia,
Present.
Dean Euchre,
Here.
Vice Mayor Gary Barton,
Present.
Mayor Daniel DeGraff.
Here. Thank you. All right, this time will be for public discussion for items that are not on the agenda. So if anybody has anything they'd like to talk about that is not on the agenda, please step forward and state your name and address if there's anybody that would like to talk.
Sorry, I gotta get my notes here. For the record, my name is Emil Guillermo, the first poet laureate of Ripon, and I have another poem to read to you. 20-year resident, Ripon, 287 Margaret Way. Alas, Happy New Year in Ripon. My friend John is retiring and leaving more than the Valley, more than California. He's leaving Ripon, the Rhubards, Ripon. But then where to? Outside Cleveland, he says. 18 years in Ripon is enough. Me, I've lived here for 22 years. New Year's Day, 2003, the family became modern Riponites from the Bay Area. Not an LAT, LA transplant, not an MAT, a Modesto area transplant, not an FAT, Fresno? We were the second house built on our block, just dirt, sticks, and a dream. It only looked like a war zone. But we knew Ripon grew good nuts and houses. We outlived the Bay Area realtor who sold us. And there's the local one who never talked to us again, but we smiled at her face on our grocery cart. How good a friend is John? He eats meat. I'm a vegan. But we karaoke to classic rock one Christmas party. One summer he helped us search for our dog, lost by the river. We don't vote alike, but we found common ground here. I ask him, no regrets about Ripon? Oh, no, he says, better than a nearby city that starts with an L and rhymes with Kodai. It's well planned, safe, never a concern, John says. Number one, a perfect place. So why leave perfect? Oh, the girls are grown, all in careers. The schools were great. One's with Microsoft now. That's software, I say. Ripon is hardware. Yeah, Ripon was home, but Cleveland is family. We're going back. It was a great life here, though. Yeah, I say. Still the best nuts. And you, he asked, back to San Francisco and give up all our parking? We are rich in parking in Ripon. We toast to all the space we found for our lives. And then we said, so long. Watch out for the fires, John says. And you, the snow. Climate change is everywhere. Yes, I know, he says. One last Happy New Year in Ripon. So that was a New Year's poem for January. I will be having the first Poet Laureate talk, a workshop, a meetup at the library in Ripon on Thursday, the 23rd at 4:30 next week. The theme, there is poetry everywhere, even in Ripon. It's 1 hour free. There's going to be refreshments. Bring a poem you wrote or liked or want to talk about. All ages. Dr. Seuss is okay if you wish. Refreshments will be served. And again, February 20th at the library. I will be in New York next month, but I will be coming back for the 20th and reading a new poem, a February poem for Ripon. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Thank you for your service to our community. I wasn't here the end of summer when we had the ballot on fire, and I think with what's happening, I'm sorry, my name is Adam Corkins. I live at 1588 Van Andel Way. We didn't get a chance to really participate in the feedback I heard from the council on our fire district ballot that failed. And I think with what's happening in the southern part of the state, it's just a reminder of the importance of our households to be prepared. What does that look like for each of our homes? I know I've thought about that for my children and my wife. How do we prepare food and water and medical supplies, as well as having capable first responders that can get to our homes in a reasonable time? So I hope none of us will allow a failed ballot to be a signal that we need to wait another 7 years before figuring out why that ballot failed and what we can do to help invest in our fire district. I think the wrong interpretation of it failing would be a lack of support for our district and support for a resilient Ripon from the many citizens I've talked to. Maybe the price was the wrong price point. Maybe there wasn't enough explanation of the benefits. But I've not talked to anyone who thought investing in our fire district was a bad idea or they don't value what our fire district does for our community. Disasters are always a surprise. That doesn't mean we can't make those investments in preparedness as a community as well as at the household level. So I hope we have a role in that and how we reassess. In particular, I wanted to highlight there was a comment on not getting ballots. So I've invested in another property in town. I currently hold title to 3 properties. I received 0 ballots on the second ballot. So I definitely want to know what went wrong and did we get ballots to everyone who might have actually supported this and made a difference. I also in May shared, I did a data analysis, continue to have that database of all the parcels that are served by the fire district and what an improvement in response times would look like if we were staffing Station 3. And we should put some data behind from the professionals in the industry, what kind of emergencies we respond to and how those minutes could save lives and make a difference in each of our homes. I also did a data analysis on the addresses, but we did not get a chance to use the comparison. So the data that I calculated with one of our real estate firms, Core4, one of the title companies, comes from private data when we do transactions. And my proposal is that if we do another one, that we check the records that come from the county, because I don't think they're very timely updated, and we can do a diff and make sure that the ballots have the right addresses of the current owners. And maybe we'll get a better result the next time if we take some of those additional steps beyond what the law requires to make sure that we've done our best job to put the ballot forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we will move on to approval of the minutes from the regular city council meeting December 10th and the special meeting of December 19th.
So move. Second.
Motion and a second. Alright, that motion passes. We will move on to approval of the agenda as posted or amended. I believe there are a few items that need to be pulled off consent. Councilman or Vice Mayor Barton, you have one, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item 1.2E.
Okay, and I believe staff has
We have
two
two
items.
items. It's 1.3F and 1.4A, please.
1.3F and 1.4A. Okay, is anything else anybody needs to pull? Nope. Okay, with that, is there a motion for approval of the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Looks like there's two movers.
I'll second.
Okay.
What are you giving it to you?
All right. Okay, one that is pulled or one that will go. Is there someone that would like to make a comment on the consent? Okay, so yeah, you talk at that point. Yep. Okay, perfect. Well, with that, can we get a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended?
So moved.
Second.
There we go. Okay. We'll just take these in order. So 1.2E.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I discussed this with Mr. Werner yesterday and would just like him to update us on kind of cost comparison on this item over the last few years and see how we're tracking. I know what's happened in our business, and I was curious to have public discussion on what's going on with cities, both workers' comp, liability, and property coverage.
Yeah, all three of those have experienced significant increases. What staff is planning to do as part of this year's budget process, we could get into a little bit more about trending those over the last 5 or so years, showing those increases, talking a little bit about why they've happened, and what we've done is trying to mitigate those expenses. So I'm happy to do that as part of the upcoming budget cycle.
Very good. Thank you.
Probably be tripling after the LA fire. Or more.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions, comments, or we'll take that one? And is there a motion to approve?
Yes, I'll move to approve that
Second,
agenda item.
All right. We have a.
somebody's gotta hit the moon.
There we go. Now you're waiting on me. Okay. Next, 1.3F.
Yeah.
Lisa?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we pulled this one because we realized that the Recreation Commission appointments were erroneously written in the original resolution. So what we're doing here is we're looking to reappoint Rod Wright to seat 1 for the 4-year term as the regular resolution was written, but then we are going to appoint the alternate of Louis Rivera, who has been the alternate since January of 2021. We're going to move him to seat 2 for 4 years, and then we're going to appoint a new member as a 4-year alternate of Joshua Surratt.
Okay. Is there any other comments or questions on that? Otherwise, I have a comment to make. I wanted to, we went through the process of evaluating candidates. I think there's 7 candidates that submitted applications for 6 or 7 candidates for the Planning Commission position. Staff and I went through and did a, evaluation of the applications and then narrowed it down to 3 candidates. And I just, because the candidates were fantastic candidates, it was probably one of the hardest interview processes and decisions to go through. Not to knock anybody that was in cool. I mean, it was just really good, really good process. I think we, had several qualified candidates, very good candidates, and I think we made a good recommendation. But it was nice to see a lot of interest in that position and a lot of qualified and very good candidates. So just wanted to give you a little update on what the process looked like from our perspective. And if you have any questions, anybody comments?
Well, we had a similar experience a couple of years ago. We had 3 finalists for the planning commission. All of them were very qualified. And so, yeah, we're blessed to have people who are interested in actively participating in that part of our community. So, yeah, thank you.
So with that, is there a motion?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. So congratulations.
Stand up, bow.
No. Okay, the 1.4A, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a change to the indemnification language, Section 8 of this agreement. This is an agreement for legal services. It has been reviewed by outside legal counsel along with the city's Risk Management Association. There has never been a dispute on the intent of the indemnification language, but it was really the clarification and the interpretation of that language. So what's in front of you tonight is hard copy, is the revised language that we believe makes the intent of the indemnification language clear.
Okay. So anybody have any questions or comments on that? There's a member of the public that would like to. Make
He's
some
got
comments?
something.
Oh,
Sorry, with the language that you have in front of you, the only change is in the second line, officers is going to be changed to read elected and appointed officers and officials.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to address Section 8, so I guess there's nothing else for me to say at this point in time. So, no, I jest. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm David Nafusi. I live in Woodbridge, outside of Lodi, as the poet laureate referenced earlier in his poem. I'm actually the city attorney of the city of Manteca, but I'm here in an unofficial capacity this evening to give my full support and endorsement to this item. It's hard to believe I was speaking with Mr. Terpstra Sr. earlier this evening. It's 32 years, he said he's been on the job. I said, you know, Mr. Brinton in Manteca went for 40. I said, are you sure you don't want to try to surpass that? And he said, no, he says there's some things he'd like to do. But in all seriousness, you all have a great choice in front of you in Thomas Terpstra Jr. I've known Tom Jr. for about 3 years now, and I can say with absolute certainty from myself, as well as the other attorneys in my office, he brings professionalism, the utmost diligence to what he does, and he knows and appreciates this community and the county, and I think that's really important. He's a team player, and I can tell you that for the past few years, he's worked with my office collaboratively on so many matters that mean a lot to cities, matters that mean a lot to us as neighbors. And with that, you know, we share a common border, but I think we share a lot more between Manteca and Ripon. I think you all house most of our police and fire departments here. But more importantly, though, if there's ever been an issue, we can call each other up and work through it together. And I think that's a great place to start. You know, we are going to miss Tom Sr., but I felt that, you know, we've got a very good group here in this county of city attorneys that we all support each other. So I figured I'd make the drive down 99 and a little bit of traffic to come down here and offer support before I go back to that city that rhymes with Kodai for the rest of the evening. But anyway, Mayor, Council, Madam Clerk, rest of the community, you have my endorsement as an individual and also the other attorneys in my office as well. So thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
That's very kind of you to do that.
Is there any other comments, questions? Anyone from the public?
I'd like to make
I'll move to approve.
second with the revised.
Yeah, with the revised language.
Okay. All right, we will move on to public hearings. At this time, I guess, Ken, you want to introduce the item, or Tom, and then we'll take it from there?
Yeah, the resolution of necessity was to be the topic of a public hearing this evening. However, there was a request received by my office from counsel for the property owner asking that the item be continued to February 11th. We can do that, but we do need to open the public hearing and take testimony from anybody who would otherwise not be able to testify maybe in February. Or maybe you'd rather testify now, but your comments will be carried forward and become part of the administrative record in this case. So you don't have to get up and speak, but you can. If you can, and you came to speak on this item, you can do that now.
Okay.
So if the mayor, you can open the clip.
Yeah, go ahead and open the, or Ken, do you have anything to add, or no? Okay. All right, well, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. If there's anybody that would like to speak at this time, speak now or wait till February. Okay, so seeing that, we're gonna leave the public hearing open till the following meeting, and we need a motion from the council to postpone it to the February meeting, correct? All right, a motion, a second. Okay, so we will address that item in February. Moving on to item number 3, the lighting district. Mr. Warner, you have an update for us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you're aware, the lighting district is a special district that is operated by the city of Ripon. And the purpose of tonight is just to provide an overview of the operations of that district, some of the finances of that district, the funding of that district, and talk about some options to possibly increase revenue or ensure that we have a balanced budget moving forward for the lighting district. So this first slide, this is what is being maintained by the lighting district. HPS are the high pressure sodium street lights that we have right now. There's 43 of those lights. There are also induction lights. We have 719 of those lights and LED lights. And there's also different responsibilities as far as owning and maintaining those lights. There's 547 lights that are owned by PG&E and maintained by PG&E. 365 lights are owned by the city and maintained by the city, but power is provided by PG&E. And then 440 are the same situation, owned and maintained by the city, but have MID power. So there's about 1,350 lights that the city is responsible to maintain. Also, there's been a number of decisions, number of projects that have happened since 2004 when the city took over the lighting district from the county. First of all, when that happened, the assessment was set at $42 per single family equivalent, and that still remains in place today. Shortly after the city taken, and that was through a vote of the property owners within city limits. In 2005, the lighting district borrowed funds to convert the high pressure sodium lights that were owned by the city to induction. This was done to realize some of the savings with maintenance and power. Also in 2005, the lighting district purchased a utility truck that has a lift, so we're able to maintain the street lights. In 2006, the street lights that were within the MID service area, those were purchased by the city of Ripon. And then in 2017, PG&E, they offered this to many cities within the area, but they offered to convert the PG&E owned lights, many of them from high pressure sodium to LED, and then that capital cost for that replacement was paid for through a temporary surcharge, which was completed at the end of 2019. So a little bit about the finances of the lighting district. 85% of the revenue that we receive comes through that $42 assessment. 15% comes from property taxes. In fiscal year 23-24, the total revenue that was received for the operations of the lighting district was $322,000. The one thing I would add with the assessment, like I mentioned, that's been in place since 2004. That has not increased, but it's allocated to different properties based off the benefit received. So for a single family dwelling, it's assigned one single family equivalent. Multifamily, whether it's an apartment complex or another, with an ADU, they're assigned the number of SFEs based off the units on that property. And then commercial and industrial properties, they are assigned one SFE for the first 75 foot of frontage, plus an additional SFE for each additional 50 feet of frontage. And then vacant and ag-related both are assigned one single family equivalent. So we work with the county assessor's office each year to make sure that these assessments are accurately included on the property tax bills. So with that expense for 23-24, the actual expense was $292,000. Over the time that the city has operated the lighting district, that has increased 62%. So on average, since 2005, it's about 3% per year. The largest expense is related to utility expenses. This is the MID and PG&E bills that we receive to provide power to the lights. And I would also note this does include in the PG&E bill, or their portion of it, is the maintenance of those lights for the lights that are owned by PG&E. One of the biggest changes that we saw from last fiscal year to the most recent fiscal year that just closed, fiscal year 23-24, there was a significant increase in those utility expenses. It increased about $50,000 in that 1 year period. And during this time, since the city has owned the district, the revenue has not been sufficient to transfer capital to a capital replacement fund, which we do with many of our other funds. Just simply have not been able to do that. Largely, and you'll see this in a slide coming up, is because of the investment that was made early on, drove the operating balance in the negative because of those investments in induction lights and buying the lights, that it has taken some time to work through that. And this is the slide I was referring to, so you could see those first 3 years in 04 through 7-8. We actually, the operating balance went to about negative $272,000. Since that time, it's slowly been increasing until 15-16. The black line is the operating balance of the lighting district. The red columns on there is the annual expenses, and the green columns are the annual revenue received. But with that black line, you can see it was slowly increasing until 15-16, and then went back down and declined, and then back up. There was some billing issues that we had to work through with PG&E. We've done that. Those have been resolved. So if you look at the slope of that operating balance prior to the reduction in 15-16, and it just extended that, extrapolated that going forward over those 3 years, you can see that it would have been very close to staying on that same trend. So now at the close of 23-24, our most recent fiscal year, we actually had a balance in the lighting district of $86,000. Like I mentioned before, with that, we don't have a capital fund that we've been able to put money aside for capital replacement. And these recent increases in utility expenses do raise some concerns with the ability to continue to maintain a positive balance, let alone address some of the capital needs that we're going to talk about here in the next slide. So when the lighting district invested in induction lights, LED was not an option at that point. Induction lights was really the option to have an alternative to high pressure sodium that was going to save on operations and electrical costs. That's where the investment was made. Fast forward to 2024, and induction lights now are a mature technology. I think going back a few years, probably even back to 2017, there was a conversation with the council about some of the challenges we were having finding spare parts for these. We have since resolved that and found a supplier of those parts so we can replace lights as we need to. But it's a technology that no longer is improving with time, whereas LED is the preferred technology, and it has some benefits beyond induction, specifically with better light coverage, and then it has the same benefits as far as maintenance and energy cost. So induction lights, those have been around now pretty close to 20 years. The life of those is about 30 years, 100,000 hours. So within in the next 10 years, we're going to be in a situation of needing to replace those with likely with LED lights. And that cost is, we're estimating it to be $600,000. The other large item that we have as far as capital replacement is our maintenance vehicle. That was purchased, like I mentioned earlier, in 2005 and has exceeded its useful life. We still use it, but it is expensive to maintain, specifically the lift of the truck, and provides access to the heads of the lights. And the cost to purchase a new vehicle is $150,000.
Lift and all.
Yeah, the total. So we looked at just generally what are some of the financial goals of the lighting district. I'm throwing these out for discussion if the council may have different thoughts about these. But at least as a starting point of that conversation, as far as a capital fund, to establish a capital fund, first of all, but get to a point when we're able to maintain a minimum balance of $500,000 to deal with any sort of unknown future capital needs of the lighting district. And then also have sufficient funds available over time to make purchases without incurring debt. As far as the operating fund, to maintain a minimum fund balance of 100% of the annual operating expense. So far, even right now, we're probably in the 26-25% of our annual expense that we have in the operating balance. We would like to get to 100%. We do have annual cash flow issues with when we get property tax payments from the county versus the expenses, very similar to the general fund. So having that money available throughout the year would be preferred. And then looking ahead, we ran some models for a 20-year period. Ideally, we would have projected balanced budgets over a 20-year period. We did run a couple of financial models. As far as revenue, we assumed increases to the number of single-family equivalents. In Ripon, we assumed a 1% per year increase. As far as the property tax revenue we assume 3% per year. As far as expenses, utility expenses, we assume 5% going forward, and administrative and maintenance, really all other expenses of the lighting district at 3% per year. So with that, this first projection you see here is if we did nothing. Starting in 24, 25, and even probably next fiscal year, we'll be in a positive cash flow situation with our operating budget, but soon after that, it gets into a deficit. And as far as an operating budget, just if nothing is done, it gets to an operating balance in the negative of close to $2.5 million at the end of that 20-year period. I also, in the dashed line on here, that is the balance of a capital fund, and really just tracking the timing of those capital purchases I mentioned earlier, which is purchasing a vehicle in the first couple years, in the 10 years of this projection, replacing the induction lights with LED, which, you know, in this model, we assume worst case scenario. There's certainly an opportunity to continue to replace induction lights with induction lights. There's a cost savings to that, but it's just how much longer is that going to be available going out into the future is the question. So, you know, maybe that could be a little bit less, but at the end of this 20-year period, it's close to $1 million of capital needs of the lighting district. We did look at two different scenarios to increase revenue. One was increasing the single-family equivalent from $42 to $80. I'll tell you the results of what that means for property owners before we look at the models of
Make it
those.
clear, that's annual.
Annual, yes, yeah,
You haven't
once a
seen it,
year.
but
Yeah, once a year, they would, instead of paying $42, it would be $80. So over the 20-year period, a property owner that a single-family dwelling with one SFE assigned to it would pay $760 over the 20-year period that we modeled. The second option was increasing that to a lower amount to $55, but indexing it every year. We assume 3% in this model. There's other options. We could tie that to CPI or do it to 3%, however the council wants to do that. But over the 20-year period, the single-family equivalent assessment would increase from $55 to $96 over that 20-year period. And what that results, again, with a property owner with one single-family equivalent, one single-family dwelling, would be an increase of $640. So a little bit less than option one over that 20-year period. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it would be a Proposition 218 for a special district.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah. So again, same thing on this slide as far as the makeup, and the solid black line is the operating fund balance. The dashed line is the capital fund balance over time. So this option meets all of the goals that I talked about earlier. It does provide a balance that exceeds the requirement of 100% of the expense in that last year. The expense is about 600, probably closer to $700,000. And at the end, the fund balance with this scenario would be on the order of $1.6 million. So there's quite a bit. This creates quite a bit more of fund balance than what we were talking about with the financial goals. We did look at options of reducing this amount, but what happens is in those last 10 years, you're not providing a balanced budget anymore. So you can meet the financial goal of the balance being closer to 100% of the annual expenses of the lighting district, but the last 10 years, you're operating in a deficit situation.
What would happen after 20 years? Same process all over again, or?
Yeah. 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 And like I mentioned, this also provides the capital fund. So the purple line on the bottom is kind of hard to read. That is a transfer of about $70,000 a year to a capital fund to provide the capital replacement we talked about earlier.
Oh, that's not the cumulative balance, that's an annual balance transfer.
Yeah, an annual transfer. So what we projected here was $70,000 a year that would be transferred to.
So the CapEx is the dotted line.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's the balance in the capital fund. Yep. The next option we looked at, like I mentioned earlier, was increasing the SFE from $42 to $55 a year and then start indexing it after that. This one does create a balance at the end of the 20-year period that is much closer to the goal of a 100% of the expenses of the lighting district. It provides a balanced budget over time and allows for the transfer of $70,000 a year to fund the capital account and make those capital replacements. Like I mentioned earlier, the assessment would go over this 20-year period, goes from $55 to $96 over that period. So the other one would be $80 the entire time. This actually averages about $75 over that 20-year period. And it has a lower impact to the customer over the 20-year period, where it's $640 compared to $760.
27, 28, and 34, 35. 27, 28 more specifically. How would you fund that shortfall from the general fund?
No, we would look at that a little closer. We would either move the capital expense out a year, or we could adjust that 70,000 a little bit in the beginning.
And I suspect 34, 35, and 27, you're buying something there.
Right, yeah, 27, 28 was a purchase of a truck, 33, 34 was replacement of the induction lights, and then another truck in 39, 40.
Kevin, does PG&E have any other programs for this transition from induction to LEDs? Are they still doing that?
For the PG&E owned lights, they may be, but we asked them when they were doing theirs if they would also do the city lights that were induction as well, and that program was not intended for that. We certainly could ask them again, see if there's any new programs that have come up since then that would fund with a surcharge like that, the city-owned lights, but at the time when they did it, it was not available.
How about the state? I mean, like, we're a customer, like, you get credits for like solar and things like that. Have we checked with the state?
We have not, no, but we certainly can. So a little bit about going forward. A couple options, and like I said, tonight, we're not looking for decisions about options. This was really intended to give you an idea of the magnitude of the problem, the scope of what we're talking about, some of the options for the council. But this is a special district. If the council was interested in moving forward with increasing the revenue, it would be a Proposition 218 process. This is very, very similar to what the fire district has recently gone through. It would require a consultant to prepare an engineer's report. It identifies all the parcels that receive the benefit of the service and allocates the benefit to the different parcels. There would be a resolution by the city council approving that report and setting a public hearing to accept testimony from the public on the increases and conduct a ballot count. After that resolution is approved, we would send out ballots and then conduct that public hearing. If the council is not interested in pursuing these options to increase revenue, we certainly could go down the road of evaluating ways to save costs or looking at state programs, talking with PG&E, finding ways to continue to try to reduce costs and find alternative funding. I would just say, though, it's a difficult way to operate a district going forward with where we're at today and trying to continue long term. You can do that short term, but providing that long term would be a challenge.
With this Prop 218, it'd be a benefit assessment for a special district, so it'd be a 50 plus 1%.
Correct.
It's not a majority protest, so
Right.
you'd have to get positive vote in favor of it.
Right.
So a lot more work to try and pass one of those.
Yes.
Is that in the regulation, how you do it? Well, I remember when we talked about this once before, we had no choice, and remember half the lights went, and that wasn't good either.
Right.
Because my batteries only last so long in the flashlight.
Just gotta go to bed sooner.
That's not a problem. I have one question. It goes back to induction versus LED. It costs more to replace them. Do LED lights last longer than induction?
They have a very similar life of the 100,000 hours.
What about power usage? Do they
Very-
use less?
They're very similar, both in the benefits of the life of those and as far as the energy usage. They're both very similar. The only problem with induction is just the continued life of those and finding.
So in effect, we're coming up on deciding which way we're gonna replace what's gonna have to be replaced anyway.
Right.
Okay.
That's the challenge. Right.
There's no, I mean, looking at the numbers, I think it was $300-400 a piece, something like that. It looked like, or maybe even more than that. It was what the numbers were to replace them all. I mean, it seems, I get it's a specialty light for a certain fixture, but like, you got to get in the business of selling light fixtures to cities for this. It's I mean, you can buy an LED light that puts out that brightness for $20 on Amazon. I don't, for your shop light, and it'll last for 20 years. I just don't understand why they can. I mean, I understand why they're so expensive, but It's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, and we did assume worst-case scenario of a contractor coming in and doing the replacement. There's,
As we replace ones, if they burn out right now, do we replace them with LEDs or? Yeah,
with LED.
so.
Yeah.
We're kind of going through that process, so.
Are we experiencing our LEDs are lasting? Cause I can tell you at home, they don't last that long. I gotta hear it from my wife all the time. We put them in and, 6 months later they're burned out. We don't keep them on that.
I know James and I were looking at some of the specifications for the different lights, and they're very similar in the life, the 100,000 hours that they both provided.
Have we been experiencing that with our lights?
Not that I've heard of. I haven't heard that issue. But with the light replacement, though, we did assume it going out to bid, and but there's certainly an opportunity working with Public Works if we wanted to take that on ourselves and start doing that. There's certainly some cost savings. So I would say that $600,000. Two things about it: it's escalated to 10 years from now. So we did do that, and we assumed going out to bid with a contractor. So potentially could be some cost savings. Right. Yeah, no, we talked about certain times of the year lends itself for them to go out, go out and, right. But it does take renting trucks and, cause right now we just have the one truck, so we would have to rent a couple trucks and make it efficient.
You shouldn't have CapEx. I mean, if you had 2 or 3 year renters, you just got an operating.
Right.
At that point.
Yeah, short term. So staff is just looking for some general direction of how you would like to proceed with this.
So I have some concern about strategically about potentially 3 218s going before the residents of the city over the next 10 to 12 months.
Yes.
That's a lot. And so I think we need to keep that in mind as we consider how we want to move forward on this. Whether it's appropriate for this one to try to muddle through for another 12 months and address this again next year, because I'm pretty confident the fire department is going to be coming forward with another 218 proposal, and then we've got one toward the end of the year for our normal utility rate increases.
Yeah, I agree. That's a
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. If they all fail, we're all in bad shape. I agree.
Well, they start piling up on each other.
It adds up. You bet. I get it.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth looking into potential grants and other funding sources to get you through the next 12 to 24 months. Maybe see if we can do that. I mean, there's also trying to understand what those. I think we have a decent idea of what Prop 218 would cost, but see who's done those for this type of district for city and see if they have any thoughts on it. Maybe worth looking into that and coming back next month and maybe talk some more, or in 3 months and talk about it again.
And like I mentioned, we're not, we're still on the upside. We're not putting funds away for the capital replacement, which we need to start doing. But we're not in a situation that we have to replace all the induction lights next week or next month and even next year.
Right.
We've been working really hard to get us into a good position. We're there, but the concern is really just starting to bring up this conversation because I just didn't want to get the other way where.
Right. You don't want to be in the hole and say, hey,
Yeah.
we got problems.
Well, I'm glad you came early rather than, hey, next month we have to do
Right.
something.
Right. So we got time, and I agree with coordinating with the other efforts going around in the community, and we have time to do that.
Yeah, we don't need 2 sets of ballots going out at the same time.
So if the council wants, we could talk more about this as part of next year's budget as well, and update the council where we're at with the upcoming budget. Happy to do that.
That'd be good.
And there's no action on that, right? Just okay. Well, with that, then we will go to reports, Chief.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, all I have to report out on is the large-scale active shooter exercise last week at Ripon High went extremely well. We had over 15 agencies participated with 280 participants and volunteers. So it was a pretty large-scale day exercise and went very well. Nothing else to report.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Honorable Council. I just wanted to report out on the progress of the tennis courts project. If you've been by there, they have made good progress. They are still doing some work on the fencing and some other stuff. There is temporary striping of the asphalt. They will have to come back later to complete the acrylic and the rest of the painting of the courts due to the weather's too cold for it to be done correctly. So they will come back at a future date. I will keep you posted when that comes, but I'm told by the January 24th, we should be able to make them available to the public until we can complete that project.
Awesome.
And then on a different note, I would like to congratulate our city attorney on his retirement. Tom and I go way back. Grew up in the same neighborhood over by Wilma Park. We're friends for a long time and colleagues. Worked together almost 28 years for the city. So I am would like to congratulate him, and I'm happy for him.
Thanks. Mr. Zeiderberg.
A couple items. We do not have a planning commission meeting this month, but we are gearing up to have a fairly busy one in February. So just to hang on for another month, and you can come join us probably for several hours in February. And secondly, I would like to congratulate Tom as well. Congratulations on your retirement. Tom, it's been a pleasure working with you. I've been here for about 25 years. And just really enjoyed time working with you and your friendship and also your mentorship. Enjoy your retirement.
Mr. Terpstra Jr., you have anything to say to him?
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'll be self-serving and do my part first, and then I'll congratulate my dad. I just wanted to say thank you to this council. I'm really honored to be stepping into this new role. I'm grateful to this council for its trust in me, and I look forward to doing really good work for this city and continuing the tradition of professionalism and integrity that Ripon's always stood for. On another note, I do also want to join the other congratulations to my dad on his retirement from this position. I hope everyone knows in this room and in this city how deeply he cares for this city, not only as a client, but as a resident and as a stakeholder in this community. It's been a privilege and honor watching you do this work through the eyes of a child, as a teenager, a young adult, a law student, and most recently, as a colleague in the legal field. Your reputation in the community is a testament to the great work you've done for Ripon these last 32 years. I'm proud of you, and I'm excited to see what you do in retirement.
Tom?
I will say this, and this is my final meeting as your city attorney, and it's been a great ride. I really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. It's provided me with a lot of context for what's going on the other side of the aisle. So it's just been really good. You know, the thing about the future for Ripon, I will say this, I'm going to be 2 blocks away watching very closely, number one. Number two, I know you're in capable hands. Tom's going to do a great job. He's going to learn quickly. He already has learned quickly. But I'm thinking too, Kevin and his department heads, don't take these people for granted. They're awesome. I mean, I work with a lot of staff people from a lot of churches, and these guys are awesome. So make sure you value them, and it's more than just money you put values. All right.
Amen. Amen.
Yep. Yeah.
Not a final invoice, Tom, don't try to slip that in there.
I couldn't read it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You want us to come back to you?
No, no, no. When I was, for about 6 years, 6 disastrous years, about 12 years ago, I took on a second city. And it was a quick lesson in humility. And it was just a disaster. I call Ripon my honor student. I called Atwater my juvenile hall. I go down to the city hall and you go into the room, you go into a conference room and wherever there were 2 or more gathered, they're complaining about their jobs and worried about losing their jobs. And I couldn't believe it. You know, council members openly saying to me, how do I get rid of that person? It was just, wow. So, you know, Ripon isn't like that. Ripon's a special place in that sense. You know, where management and the employees get along. They treat each other with respect. They don't always agree with each other, but they treat each other with respect. And it's just professionalism all around. So I value your staff and your leadership, and especially Kevin. So that's about all I got. I'm going to go out and do some fishing before you know it.
It's good to hear.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Tom. Mr. Warner. You want to follow that one?
Yeah, no. You know, listening to Tom and the department heads, it's hard to see Tom go. I have truly appreciated working with Tom. For me, it's been 18 years getting this opportunity. And this morning at our department head meeting, we went through some of the milestones, if you will. You know, Tom's been in a lot of big decisions, a lot of important discussions, agreements that we've made with different people in the city, and Tom's been a big part of that. And I think what he's contributed to the city is really going to have a very positive, lasting impact in our community. And that's something that I don't think you get from a lot of city attorneys in other cities, is the kind of investment that Tom has had in those dealings. But maybe even more important to that, as we were talking this morning, and I think Ken alluded to it when he said it, but Tom has really been a mentor to all of us here. When Leon and that generation left, Tom was really the mentor that we all look to in the work we do, and really trying to figure out how can we serve the community as best as we can. And I appreciate what you've done for me, for the department heads, for our staff, because it's really helped mold us. It really has molded us to what we have now. So I'm excited for you in retirement, but I'm really going to miss you. And as I miss Tom, I ever since Tom told me this, I've had concerns, and what are we going to do? I said, Tom, I just can't lose you. He said, well, I'll give you maybe the next best thing, Tom Jr. So, you know, the same name, just about, looks like Tom, talks like Tom, and so we're excited. We're excited to work with Tommy. This morning, the biggest part of our discussion was, is it Tom or Tommy going forward? So, but you know, I guess the bottom line is we're all excited to work with you. Welcome aboard, and excited for the future.
Councilman Zuber.
I'm going to keep it much shorter than some of the people that have spoken up to now, but I have to say, in my experience, in my professional experience, and now as on the council, I've come into contact with a lot of attorneys in a lot of situations. And I agree with Kevin. When I got here, we needed some people to help us figure things out and keep things moving. And the guy sitting at that table or in that chair is the one that helped it the most. He cares about the community, but he also cares about the law. And that is an important balance that some people can't accomplish. And I also have to say, I've had some experience with Tommy and some of the bodies that I sit on, and we're going to be okay. He's himself, but at the same time, he cares about this town just like his dad does. And he's got the knowledge to back it up. So I think we're going to be just fine. So congratulations to both of
Mr. Restuccio?
Yeah, thank you. So I have several things, but first, Tom, I think I've known you about 30 years, and you kind of walk in City Hall, and Tom's been our attorney, and I always use you as an example when I talk to people about a good attorney, because you're never, you can't do that, or yeah, you can. It's like, what do you want to do? Tell me what you want to do. Let me see if I can defend it. That's what you do. So you're always flexible to try to figure out what's the right thing to do without getting us in trouble. Flat out, you've been a friend for 30 years. You'll always be a friend. And what I'll say about Tommy, and yes, I'll call you Tommy because I remember you as Tommy for 30 years, is the apple does not fall far from the tree. So we're in good hands. So thank you for all you've done. And so next, what I'd like to bring is a couple things. I've been getting a lot of calls about fires and are we prepared in Ripon, and look what happened in Southern California, and they never thought it was going to get that bad. And so anyway, I guess to cut my comment short on that, is it possible to get a hold of maybe Chief DeHart and see if they can just come out and on the public record kind of tell people how often they check these, all the water systems and things like that, so that people can feel comfortable. We're prepared if there's an emergency, because emergencies happen. We're not, just so people can feel comfortable that we're good, like maybe at the next council meeting, just come and kind of do something. Thank you. Thank you. And part of that, and then it also leads into my next comment. Well, let me go to my third one first. One of the things that I'm very concerned about, and I know everybody in Ripon is keeping Ripon. And I know I talked to Kevin about it. We're going to talk about it, our strategic planning. And the reason I bring that up is because we're by ourselves. We have no leadership and nothing but incompetency in Sacramento, flat out, and we can never depend on Sacramento to help us with anything. So I think we need to be prepared ourselves to take care of what we need to take care of. And I don't mean to offend anybody with that, but just watch what's going on in this state. We're bankrupt and we got stuff just falling off the cliff, and we shouldn't be like that. We're the 5th best economy in the world, and look where we're at. So anyway, I think that'll probably be addressed at our strategic planning. So anyway, let me just leave it at that, because if I keep talking, it's not going to be good.
So you have the floor.
I know everybody agrees, so I don't need to say anything else.
All right. Councilman Euchre.
I'll just make this quick. I've known Tom a long time, been a good friend, but I just want to say congratulations, Tom Sr., on your retirement, and congratulations, Tom Jr., on your new duties.
Yeah. Hey, that's my words. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just wanted to just congratulate Chief Sauer, Chief DeHart, so many people in the community, school district, on the exercise that took place the other day. I understand it went very well. Certainly a scenario we hope never plays out in this community, but one of the ways that we prevent it from happening is by being prepared for it. So I'm really grateful for what you did, and I wanted to recognize 2 people who were so active and spent so much time volunteering to make that happen, and that's Vincent and Stephanie Hobbs. Just those people they're just an amazing asset to our community. Wanted to echo some of the previous comments. When I bought my first house in Ripon, Tom and his family lived 3 houses down. And so I got to see his kids at a young age and have just appreciated Tom's wisdom. Tom is a person that I never had to question what his values were or to whom he ultimately answered. And particularly since becoming part of this body, that is just a great comfort, total confidence in his advice and his counsel. You will be missed. I hope we get to see you frequently. And with that said, I'm really looking forward to working with Tommy. He was a fun kid on our block and has grown up to be an outstanding young man. And as others have said, very confident in his abilities and the values that he has that will help us guide the city through whatever the Lord puts in front of us over the next many years. Thank you.
Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that the community has a lot of wonderful people here who have dedicated a lot of time and their energy and effort into making this a very wonderful community to be a part of, including, as Mr. Barton said, the fire department, police department working together with school districts and their preparedness. And I think as Councilman Restuccia mentioned regarding the leadership in the state and surrounding communities and just seeing how things are done differently. And I think it's a testament to a lot of people who have come before all of us and certainly me. But I think one of the people who have been most influential in a lot of the decisions I make is Mr. Terpstra. So I just want to say thank you for always, just being there to listen, to provide counsel, for lack of a better term, and not only on city-related things, but outside of that as well in life. So you've been a wonderful resource and a good friend, and I really appreciate that and want to congratulate you on your retirement and thank you for dedicated service to this community. I know Dean already tried to steal the offer, but if you do need a fishing partner, I'd be happy to take you up on that as well. Maybe we both can go. I don't know.
Get a bigger boat.
Yeah. Yeah, make Tommy work a little harder so you can get a bigger boat. And yeah. Yeah, well, just make sure you have big ice chest. But with that, there's big shoes to fill, and I'm very confident that Tommy will do a wonderful job with that. And while your dad has had a huge impact on the past, looking forward to and excited about the future as well. I know we're in good hands, so looking forward to what's to come. So thank you all, and as always, thank you all for being here. Appreciate you. We'll see you next meeting, hopefully. Bring some friends. Meeting adjourned.